What's going on, y'all? H-Stock here, going to be talking about the Meg and Tory verdict that just came in yesterday. I think it was like around 2-3 o'clock yesterday when the verdict officially came in, that Tory was found guilty of all charges in the 2020 shooting case of Megan Thee Stallion. Honestly, leading up to the verdict, I didn't think it was going to end up being something that was going to be a guilty verdict. Throughout the course of the trial, it seemed like that Tory was going to get off. It was either going to end in a mistrial or they found Tory not guilty at all. Mostly because it was a lot of things that was inconclusive, a lot of he said, she said going on, a lot of lying on all three parties' accounts. Kelsey was doing a lot of lying. Tory was lying in the trial, and Meg was lying as well. Now, the only lie I can kind of excuse Meg for is the one where she lied about her and Tory having an intimate relationship. I can understand why she would lie about that, considering that there's so many narratives that has been spun about Megan ever since this shooting happened a couple years ago, of her being an industry 304, things like that. So I'm guessing for the sake of, her public image, she did not want to go out and say that, yeah, me and Tory had a thing going on. But throughout the whole thing, throughout this whole mess that's been going on roughly 2 years, you've had the court of public opinion on both sides run amok. You've had the court of public opinion on Megan's side saying that Tory shot Meg since day one. And you have the flip side of it, of a lot of people defending Tory, saying Tory's innocent, Meg is a liar, she's a fraud. And I'm simply stating, from the time the shooting happened to the time the trial began, not during the trial. All three of them was lying during the trial. That was apparent on the nose. And even with the verdict itself, I'm not like 100%, looking at it like, yes, Megan had some justice served for her, because the prosecution didn't really do a good job to slam Tory. Now, unless if the jury seen some evidence where it was either not presented in the courtroom, which I don't even know if that's possible, or if they looked at what was present in the courtroom and they said, okay, we can hit him with this, and say, okay, well, because of this and that, we could really slam him, and all unanimously agree that Tory was the one who ended up shooting Meg. And I've seen a lot of people call this an injustice, but we're not really going to know how much of an injustice this is, because this being a high profile case, like, this is one of the cases that lawyers on both fronts, the prosecution and the state, has to do a bang up job. If you louse this case up as a lawyer, I think you deserve to lose your job. That's just my opinion. And hopefully we don't get into a point, like, let's say within the next couple of years or longer even, where there's some newfound evidence that proves Tory's innocence. They're going to have to end up firing the lawyer responsible for that, because there's no way you can end up putting an innocent man behind bars. But that's something we're not going to be apparent of or aware of until we get, years ahead, and he's been in jail for a couple of years. If by the time he serves his sentence, which is supposed to be up to 22 years, but I've heard people say that he could either do at most 9 or 5 years and not have to serve the rest at all, probably be on probation or some shit like that. It is what it is, and I hope that we can move on past this. But ever since then, the conspiracy theories have been running rampant, with the biggest one being trying to blame Jay-Z, the head of Roc Nation, saying, oh, well, Roc Nation paid the jurors off, Roc Nation paid the judges off. Listen, it would have been no different if this was the other way around and Tory had ended up being proven innocent. You would have had the same exact thing happen. A bunch of conspiracy theories saying, oh, well, the judges were paid off, the jurors were paid off. Instead of blaming Roc Nation, they probably would have blamed 1501 Entertainment, that's ran by Carl Crawford. They probably would have pinned it, that on Carl, blaming him. Oh, he slid some money underneath the table to get this case to be a win for Tory. His family was upset, justifiably so, because they looked at it like he was wrongfully put in the system, wrongfully convicted. It's not going to be one of the things where it could be looked at as understandable for them to be like, okay, we can understand why they're putting him in jail. It's one of them things that it could be hard for any parent to believe that their son committed a atrocious act. But in all honesty, I don't think there's a single way that they could just let Kelsey walk away scot-free. Now, of course, they'd have to have a separate trial, or if they end up bringing up charges against Kelsey. One of the charges that was brought up against Kelsey was perjury. Now, I kind of wonder, could they be able to slap an accessory charge on her? And if that's possible, they could really be able to have her put behind bars as well. Because I think that there was an innocent verdict, then I think the prosecution in the state probably would have been aiming their sights on Kelsey, because it would have been by process of elimination. Because if you had to let this case go and there not be a trial against Kelsey, and I look at her like, all right, now you're the prime suspect, then I think it would have been looked at a bit weird. And the fact that if she's the one who indeed shot Tory, then you would have, let her get off in a sense in that scenario if we had got a different verdict play out. And throughout the course of this trial, there was a couple people in the media who had a bit of biases both against Megan, and one of them was Joe Budden. And in his case, I can kind of understand why he would have a bit of a bias against Meg, because he did state that Meg did some things to friends that he knows throughout the industry that's been in the industry for over 15 years. And he looks at it like, listen, I can't just be cool with you after what you did to my friends. Which in that case, I think is pretty understandable, because, and this goes for anybody, if you got somebody who did your friends dirty, you're not going to go out and seek the person who did your friends dirty and just be like, hey, I want to know your side of the story. Like, your side of the story seems so curious. Even though you don't know the person, like, listen, you don't have to go seek out the other side of the story if you don't know the person. That just makes no sense at all. And Milagro Grams, which her bias for Tory, it kind of don't make sense. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not like one of them things with Joe. It makes sense why he has a bias against Meg, but with Milagro, she has a bias with Tory for whatever reason. And I think if you're someone in the media, which I don't think I'd have to tell Joe that, but someone like Milagro Grams, I think that if you're someone in the media, you cannot have a bias for anybody. I don't care if you're for Megan. I don't care if you're for Tory. You have to be as completely as unbiased as possible, no matter how hard it may seem. Anyway, I can't see Kelsey getting off the hook with this completely, because I think she has something to do with it. And the fact that Meg's bodyguard was missing was a bit of a weird story. And I think they said that he either was going to show up for court or did show up for court. I'm not really sure on that. But for some reason, somebody decided to leak his nudes for not making a court appearance. You be the judge on which side of the fence did that. Team Tory, Team Meg, or both of them. That's just insane, because the man didn't want to show up to court. Now, of course, we do know that Tory's going to end up trying to appeal this, but will it succeed? I don't know. I don't know how many times that a verdict appeal has really worked historically, especially like when it comes to a high profile case such as this. And one last thing, I think that there's going to be a lot of people trying to come at Meg even harder because of this verdict. I wouldn't be surprised if people have already tried to send her death threats because of this. For anybody to be that angry over a verdict that you want to attack somebody in defense of somebody you don't even know, that don't know you exist, but you want to go so far as to issue a death threat. But honestly, I think the same thing would have happened either way. If we had got an innocent verdict, there would have been a bunch of people sending Tory death threats or Milagro Grams death threats over this whole verdict. But y'all let me know what you think about this in the comments. Do you think that Tory was justifiably convicted, or do you think that they got this one wrong? Let me know what you think. Till next time, it's been H-Dog here, and I'm out. Peace.